With cyber attacks on the rise, protecting your data security is more important than ever. So why is Congress considering a bill that puts your credit card data at greater risk of being hacked and exposed to foreign networks? The Durbin-Marshall credit card bill shifts billions in consumer spending to less secure payment networks, all so that corporate megastores can make bigger profits. Don't let Durbin-Marshall steal your data. Visit electronicpaymentscoalition.org and tell your senators to oppose the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill.
The White House, how do you assuage said bedwetting?
Oh, yeah. Look, I'm a Biden supporter, and I slept like a baby last night. I woke up every 2 hours crying and wet the bed. This is terrible for Democrats.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.
Just a catching strays over here.
You're in for a hell of a show.
Keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs.
It's time for our main event.
Welcome back to the Ruthless Friday program. I am Josh Holmes, along with Comfortably Smug, Michael Duncan, and John Ashbrook, coming to you live here in the part of the year where we're sans football, which means, we're going to focus on other things. Mm-hmm. Good thing we have a program that deals with an awful lot of that.
Yeah.
What Paul Begala, a longtime Democratic strategist, former Clinton official in the early 90s, was referring to quite obviously at the top of the program was the press conference that the President of the United States conducted last Thursday, where he reaffirmed basically all of the suspicions and innuendo that was provided by a special counsel about his mental competency.
And I mean, I said it before, if they had not gone through with having that press conference, if they would have let just the special counsel's report say, oh, this strikes me as an old man who has a bad memory, so, I can't really charge the guy. He's not fit to stand trial, essentially. If they would have just let that hang in the news, we'd have had one day of dunking on him.
Yeah.
But the decision that they made to have a press conference where he confuses Mexico and Egypt and can't remember where, he was like, I have a good memory. I got this rosary when my son died from Our Lady of but anyways, guys, I have a great memory. So, if he had not done that,
yeah,
it would have been a one-day story, right? And then the next day, we'd go on to something else. That press conference trying to show that he is not mentally unfit was more convincing an example that he is mentally unfit than anything that's happened so far in his entire presidency of all time. That Biden has existed, he has never looked more feeble and incapable of doing the job, let alone running again to do the job. And it continues. Like, the discussion continues throughout the weekend. Today, the main focus of all of politics is Joe Biden's clearly not well.
Smash, you've staffed an awful lot of principals over the years in some pretty tough news cycles. And more often than not, when somebody's taken it to the face, they have an emotional reaction, and your job as a staff is to try to protect that emotional reaction from making a situation worse. Mm-hmm. What was your take on the way that White House handled this?
Very simple. When the president, not only, he'd had his press conference, and it was a disaster, and he started walking toward the door, and he did a pivot and walked back to the podium. At that point, I think I would have...
You go for the malt box?
I think I would have pulled the plug. And just, sorry, guys, the lights are out. We're going to bring him back up. Hold on. Service needs to get the president out of here for safety reasons.
He doesn't do it. Nobody does well in the dark.
Nobody. We'll bring him back out when he's ready. But you already have everything you need.
And honestly, that would have been a vast improvement over what happened.
Or just office linebacker, the entire camera stands.
Oops, I tripped.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I think that's your only option, because it's hard to save somebody from disaster when they think they're killing it. You know what I mean?
God, yeah.
Like, he's that far gone. Like, to have the confidence to roll back out there, like, oh, they want more? Like, he's... it's just horrible.
It was like, what was it, the former Virginia governor who got caught in blackface?
Yeah, Northam.
And then he has a press conference, and he's like, do you guys want me to do the moonwalk? And his staff were like, please, make him stop. Yeah, right. Someone grab him. Like, he needed Northam's staff there with him. because they know when someone's lost their mind, you have to stop them.
I forgot about that.
I mean, there's been a lot of really memorable press conferences where somebody just reaffirms every problem that they've had during it.
Yeah.
But very few at this level, right? The White House, generally speaking, does a pretty good job of protecting a principal from a complete disaster. In this one, no protection at all. I mean, they sent him right back out there, and within moments, he reaffirms what we now know. And look, here's the polling. You're not going to believe this. You're simply not going to believe this. An overwhelming majority of Americans, this is according to ABC News, an overwhelming majority of Americans think President Joe Biden is too old to serve another term. We've known that for quite some time. According to the new ABC News Ipsos poll, and according to the poll, 86% of Americans think Biden, 81, is too old to serve another.
My God.
86? I'll guarantee you there is not 86% of Americans who think that the Kansas City Chiefs won the Super Bowl on Sunday. Guarantee it.
You could probably not get 86 to say the sky is blue. Like,
No chance.
that in a poll, that's unheard of numbers.
I mean, that is... Look, for those of you who don't do this for a living, like you'll be like, yeah, of course. I mean, everybody sees with their own eyes, what's happening. But we live in a very much a choose your news situation where people just choose to accept whatever reality that they've got. And they've got outlets and entertainment that sort of self-feeds all of that, which is why, you have such bifurcated opinions on a whole range of issues. So for 86% to agree on something, I mean, we're dealing, fellas. That's as close to consensus in the United States of America as you're ever going to have.
And this poll came out after that press conference.
Yeah.
So, it's confirmation of everything we're saying here. He did himself no favors. In fact, he made the situation dramatically worse.
It's probably, and I didn't see on this poll exactly what the dates are, but I'm guessing they probably only had like 1 or 2 days of polling because it was Thursday, right? So I'm guessing he did it late Thursday. You're probably not getting any East Coast calls after that. If they're going live with it on a Sunday, you maybe get a day and a half of part of the country on that opinion. So, like, it's probably worse, is my point. Yeah. It's like, after that, you could be in the low 90s.
Right. Well, here's the other thing. We got a lot of listeners who are like, he's already so bad. How could it possibly get any worse? And we're talking about the numbers and how, and maybe it goes from the mid 80s to the low 90s. But a lot of people listening to our show are like, already knew he couldn't put a sentence together. Yep. Already knew he was incapable of doing these things. So every time he opens his mouth, it just confirms what it is I already thought. And you said something that was very interesting to me, that people are consuming media that's in their own silo. They're self-selecting. And if you're wondering how it could actually get worse for Joe Biden, if you were someone who tuned in to CNN, you witnessed Jeffrey Toobin dunking on Joe Biden. And I don't think it gets any lower.
If you've got the in-house masturbator coming after you.
And even during
that's pretty low.
Even during the disastrous press conference that he held, it was a reporter from CNN who asked him, why are you running? Why don't you let another Democrat run? And to me, I mean, that's stunning.
Yeah.
If there is no greater sign of the widespread recognition of what an issue this is for him, when CNN is asking the question, I mean, why are you doing this, dude?
Well, because Democrats are panicking, right? I mean, look, let's see just to give you an idea of what we're, in case you missed the press conference. Can we play just a couple of clips? Clip 1, Spaghettis.
Watch me. Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
Listen, Dad, you've gotten old. I don't know if you need to drive anymore. That is your judgment.
Well, I mean,
I'm 97.
It's familiar
you have no
territory.
Right. It's exactly what like Americans across this country have experienced in families. So that's the other thing, is when they try to pull the wool over everyone's eyes, like, oh, this isn't the situation that every family in this country has seen. Grandparents have gotten too old. It's not safe for them to drive and such. When they don't want to kind of accept the reality that comes with that advanced age. Everyone has seen this situation a thousand times, but now the stakes are not, okay, is Grandpa capable of driving? It's, can Grandpa have the nuclear football? If he thinks like world leaders are dead, he's seeing ghosts. Where's Jackie?
Well, it's all. I mean, to your point.
Stand up, Chuck.
Yeah, it's gotten real tough.
I have to tell you about this game-changing product I use before a night out with drinks. It's called Z-Biotics. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Z-Biotics produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have a Z-Biotics before drinks, I notice a difference the next day. Even after a night out, I can confidently come in and record Ruthless without worry. Super Bowl Sunday is right around the corner. Because of Z-Biotics, I'm confident I can enjoy the game without worrying about how productive I'll be at work come Monday morning. Go to zbiotics.com/ruthless to get 15% off your first order when you use Ruthless at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. So remember, head to zbiotics.com/ruthless and use the code RUTHLESS at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode and our good times.
To your point, though, it's all just a ridiculous proposition. Like, yes, there would be a very real conversation about Dad with his car keys. Yes, there would be a very real conversation about whether Dad should live in an assisted living facility. No, there should never be a national conversation about whether or not the guy that you're watching live and in person should have all of America's strategic interests at the tip of his fingers. Like, of course not. Of course not. The fact that we're having this conversation is completely absurd, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I mean, and the way he sort of flashes anger is pretty incredible as well. Like, this guy is quick to anger, and part of that is just when you start to lose your mental faculties, you know, they lash out. People lash out. And it's like, I love how he says, that's your judgment. It's like, Grandpa, you ran the car into the garage door. Like, we all saw that. Like, that happened. Give me your keys. And he's acting like there's no evidence. We just read you a poll that 86% of Americans think he's too old.
You're too old. Like, that's just not something you can be happening upon.
Right.
That's not a bad news cycle.
Yeah.
That is built over time. And what people are seeing on their television sets and in their newspapers and however they consume information, like this is now a solidified opinion.
I mean, he affirmed that opinion in the press conference itself. Let's play the Egypt-Mexico clip.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, clip 2, please, Spaghetts.
I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him. I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side.
Well, listen, I have no doubt that at some point he had a conversation with the president of Mexico about opening the gates.
That's what I'm saying. There's a kernel of truth in this.
But when you're dealing with a press conference exclusively about Gaza and Israel, feels like maybe that some precision from the commander-in-chief is maybe something you'd be interested in.
Yeah.
Wasn't that when he walked back?
That was after he didn't have to do this. I mean, that's the theme. He didn't have to do any of this. He didn't have to run. He didn't have to do any of this. And to come back for more and he's like, I'm going to dig even deeper, guys. He looks at his staff and he's like, yeah, you guys want to give me a hard time after how I blew it in the first half? Wait till you see the second. It's about to get a lot worse. Because that's what that confusion right there of Mexico and Egypt, like Duncan described, that is the proof that, like, before everyone's eyes, You have it right there. It's clear as day. It's a problem.
And look, you don't even have to know who the president of Mexico is. You don't have to have any of the context of the war in Gaza.
Correct.
You just watch his delivery of that as he sort of like mumbles his way through it. And it's demonstrably true that the guy has failing mental faculties and he's too old.
He's too old.
That's the thing is
that's how you get to 86%, right?
Because people who aren't necessarily as tuned into politics as us, our listeners, someone who's just trying to watch the news, they get that alert, the president's reserved time at 8 p.m. national address. Okay, this might be something important.
Maybe we're going in.
Your classic swing voter, right? Not completely committed to a side, so they haven't seen years of Biden, mistakes leading up to this. If they have only seen that, their takeaway is like, holy shit.
The audio doesn't even need to be on. Just the visual is so bad. He's
so
looking
bad.
down. He's not making eye. Like, you could be at an airport bar, which I know is like the only place these people are watching that CNN stuff, but you wouldn't even have to have the audio on. You would just look at the visual and be like, this guy's too old.
Be like, my God, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Well, so all of this arose when a public report from Robert Hur, a special counsel investigating President Biden, had taken depositions from, and this is dealing with the classified documents that he had in his possession in several different places, including his garage. And the primary reason behind not moving forward in a prosecution was that the president had diminished capacity. And he outlined several different ways, including not knowing exactly when his son Beau had passed away, like key dates, big pieces of this that were,
the years in which he was vice president.
Extremely disturbing.
Yeah.
Right? And so he says basically that this guy couldn't have intent on a whole range of issues because he doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
Which, that's why the press conference happened, because they were so irritated by that that they wanted to put the president out to put that to bed, that he had capacity, and they made it worse. But the underlying issue here still remains because they rushed out on Sunday a whole bunch of surrogates, including the president's counsel, Bauer, Mitch Landrieu, former New Orleans mayor who's now, sort of a spokesman within the Biden administration, and others, to say, like, this was completely ridiculous for a special counsel to put that in documents. The president's on the top of his game, yada, yada, yada. I mean, we all know that's not true. But, like, I don't understand how in the midst of the last 4 years where we dealt with the Trump presidency and having to release transcripts as they're dealing with Ukrainian calls and release, all kinds of transparency that the administration had dealt with, what contacts they have from Russia, all of which that panned out to be absolutely nothing. How we're in a situation where, okay, you guys think he's lying. We'll release the transcript of that then.
Yeah.
Surely there's audio of those depositions. Like, I'm sure the Department of Justice does not make it a practice to release anything in charges they're not bringing, because that's not justice. You're just smearing somebody you're not. But if the White House acquiesced to it, if the White House said, okay, we disagree with the characterization of the prosecutor here, we'd like you to release the transcript from which he's basing this opinion.
Yeah, let's see how good he looks.
So one of two things happens. Either, one, they're right, and it was mischaracterized, and the president was on his game, in which case he's now going to be charged with a crime.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's the primary justification of not charging him with a crime in the first place, is all of that. Second is he's right, and the president's unfit for office. So which one would you want?
Right. It's kind of a pickle there.
Which one do you want to pick, White House? This is what Republicans ought to say, right? They ought to say, let's see the transcript then.
Yes.
If there's an audio recording, let's subpoena the audio recording and make sure that we have a perfect understanding. I don't even care if you do it in the skiff. If you do it, out of the public eyes first, just for members of committees to understand, because one of two things is the truth. And if you get a whole bunch of Democrats that come out and say, like, no, he's totally fit to serve. All right. Fantastic, Merrick. I guess the bet is made here.
You mentioned doing it in the skiff, and for people who are listening to the show that may not know that term, that is the room where members of Congress who have intelligence clearance can go in without their iPhones, and they can hear something or read something that's not going to become publicly available. You do these. You use that room for issues and matters of national security. And it strikes me that this is a matter of national security.
It is a matter of national security, particularly because we're talking about not just the competency of a president of the United States, which is inherently a national security matter, but the actual documents that he's talking about have been revealed to include things about like Afghanistan plans.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is literally the principal reason for the investigation in the first place. If they weren't classified documents dealing with national security, then we wouldn't have this discussion would be moot.
Mm-hmm. And I'd been having some discussions with some folks over the weekend. I've been doing a lot of reading on this, and I've seen some ramblings that there's video of this entire sit down that he had. If the Biden campaign, if the Biden administration wants to show, he's full of life, he's ready to go, just release the video.
Yeah,
put it online. The American people deserve to know. It'd be great to have our elected officials in a skiff see it, but the American people deserve to see it.
They do, but
he's on the ballot. We'd be people who need to make the decision if he gets another shot. Put the video up.
Listen, I think in a perfect world, that's what I want to have happen. But even if you're concerned about that because of the nature of the conversation, you got to have at least elected representatives lay eyes on it, because you've got an entire White House that is saying what happened didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And you're having a special prosecutor, which, by the way, nobody has ever alleged prior to this has ever been anything but totally forthright, on two diametrically opposite sides of a matter of national security and whether a president of the United States deserves to be charged. I mean,
and that's there's just so much. The cleanup effort after this has been just as botched as the press conference. So, folks have brought up the level of hypocrisy here, where now you've got Democrats come out and saying, this is a partisan special counsel. This guy's a scumbag. Yeah. He's a Republican. He's out to do a hit job. I was told that, you have to respect my norms and that this is an attack on democracy if you say anything about special. They were very quick to do that. And directly, news reports were coming out, here's how the Biden administration plans to attack the special prosecutor. Point blank, that's the administration's game plan, is attack the special prosecutor. Don't try to disprove this guy is too old to function, because the American people saw that truth for themselves.
I got to read this quote from Bob Bauer, who's Biden's personal counsel. He was on Face the Nation this weekend, and he said that Biden does not have any memory problems. The quote here is, there were a couple occasions where when the special counsel, who had flagged at the beginning that sometimes he asks imprecise questions, asked questions that the president picked apart as a matter of logic. Like he was running circles around the prosecutor.
If that happened,
yeah.
And I've known, Joe Biden's not a friend, but I was in the Senate for a long time, and I've watched him in committee hearings for a long time. If he picked something apart as a matter of logic, it will be the first time.
Yeah. But it's just preposterous.
Yes.
They're making it sound like he's Stephen Hawking. Yeah. He may not look like much, but man, when you get under the surface, he's going to be able to tell you about relativity.
He's a regular F. Lee Bailey in the courtroom, let me just tell you.
So they're pulling out every single stop they can, because Thursday night was a disaster that made Paul Begala wet his bed.
And that's
Democrats are terrified with this guy at the top of the ticket. And I think that we are as close as ever to the moment when Democrats say we're picking somebody different. I really do.
And like you said, they're pulling out all the stops. They're trying every possible angle with attacking the special prosecutor, or trying to make this an emotional thing. You had physician Jill Biden come out and with a statement saying that, this is one of the quotes, "I hope you can imagine how it felt to read that attack, not just as Joe's wife, but as Beau's mother." So, first off, I hope you can imagine what it felt like to read that attack as Beau's mother. Number one, she's not Beau's mother. If you want to try to make this a personal thing, well, Jill's ex-husband said that actually she was having an affair with Joe when he was married to Bo's mother, right? So, like, don't try to play this shit. This is not... The Biden family is the last family that can try to play this family shit. They've got stripper babies they won't let to have their last name or give Secret Service protection to, right? Like, let's be real. Don't try to play like this is, like a nice... But normal family. They've got their own problems. Don't play that card.
Smug, Biden tweeted a picture of him and the boys throwing around the pigskin on their front lawn yesterday.
And here's the thing. So
you're telling me they're not normal?
For her to try to be like, how dare this like political attack exist using Bo's death? And do you know where this statement came from? It came from a fundraising email from the campaign. There's a donate button at the bottom of this.
Are you kidding?
I am dead serious.
On.
Yeah.
Jeez. Come on.
This is from a donate email.
Jeez.
Well, look, if you are
scumbag people,
if you're a Democrat, there are few places of refuge quite like the New York Times editorial page. There are many things that you may undergo in the process of public life that are positively indefensible, but you have one mainstay, someone really holding it down. It's the New York Times editorial page. They all argue on behalf, straight face, of completely indefensible policy, of don't believe your lying eyes, basically. This is now a bridge too far for the New York Times editorial page. They have said that this is a dark moment for President Biden's presidency. They said that Biden's performance at his news conference on Thursday night was intended to assure the public that his memory is fine and argue that Mr. Hur was out of line. This is not what happened. The opinion piece said the president raised more questions about his cognitive sharpness and temperament as he delivered emotional and snappish retorts in a moment when people were looking for steady, even, and capable responses to fair questions about his fitness.
Should have pulled the plug on that malt box.
I mean, my Lord. I mean, they go on to say that he's got a manifestly unfit opponent in Donald Trump, but they still, I mean, that was like the way of getting back halfway what can of worms they had opened in the rest of the editorial. You could imagine what news it is to the progressive chilled Chablis drinkers of the left and right coast that the New York Times editorial page has seen enough.
You hang out with them, Ashbrook. What were they thinking?
Jeez. Even I don't cross every single bridge.
But this is the problem for the Democratic Party. They raised the stakes of all of this. If they're going to say that Donald Trump is uniquely unfit to serve, that he's a existential threat to democracy, and at the same time defend Joe Biden as the best guy to take him on, they've created that anxiety within their own Democratic base.
Yeah.
Right? That's why half the party doesn't want Joe Biden to be the nominee. It's like, if you're going to say the stakes are that high, you can't wheel out crotchety grandpa and be like, this is the guy, this is our guy, our best shot. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I mean, so that's where their base is. And I think that's why you're seeing this now at the New York Times, is like the base and the chattering classes, they all bought it. They bought it. They think Donald Trump is unfit. You can't do this.
Here's another question for you guys. What do you think Democrats' reaction to the Kennedy can commercial during the Super Bowl was? I mean, it caught me by surprise. You hear the music and you're like, oh, yeah, I heard that. I remember hearing that when I was in high school in history class. And all of a sudden, it's Robert Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, Robert Kennedy. You talk to Democrats, they are terrified of Robert Kennedy being on the ballot in a lot of these states because he could potentially be a protest vote for somebody who thinks that Joe Biden is unfit, and they can't look their friends in the eye and say, yeah, I voted for a guy who's incapable of holding a press conference.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think that's right. But the good news is for Democrats, guys, the really good news is all is not lost.
Oh. Because of Robert Kennedy.
Well, no. Kamala has told the Wall Street Journal that she is, quote unquote, ready to serve.
She's ready.
She's ready to serve. I mean,
and now they're like, oh, I feel so much better. She's the only person in America who polls worse than Joe Biden.
It is. It is the greatest insurance policy Biden did, selecting her.
100%.
The only way he can keep everybody in the tent is like, hey, get rid of me, you got her.
Yeah, look at the backup.
Yeah.
That's good God.
That was his last cognizant thought, with his final brain cell.
Yeah.
He was like, to save myself, I'll pick Kamala because no matter what happens, she'd be worse. And it was poof. Then he lost all capability. He's like, before I go, this is one thing to make sure they can't get rid of me.
Meanwhile, Axios is reporting that there's turmoil within the White House.
Oh, no.
Biden staffers open up about the verbal abuse and infighting within the White House staff. This is according to Alex Thompson. Aboard Air Force One en route to the border last year, Biden sat at the head of the table and exploded with a fury at his immigration team, demanding obscure data points and venting when his staff didn't have them. Biden's fury subsided and aides scrambled for the info. People in the meeting later told others in frustration that Biden's winding process and irritability were making it more difficult to reach tough decisions. The previously unreported Air Force One meeting was recounted by 3 people familiar with it. Biden's blow-up and the aftermath are emblematic of the Biden administration's struggle with the border crisis over the last 3 years, which was plagued with infighting, blame shifting, and indecision. After an unaccompanied children crisis in early 2021, Susan Rice became a central figure in Biden's border policy. You'll remember her back from the Obama days. Yep. He would graciously introduce the American people to this particular individual.
And it's always great because like this continues the whole theme of Obama's like, Joe, you idiot. And like Obama alum will show up and be like, this guy's an idiot. You're seeing it on the campaign happening the same way of like, these Biden people are morons. Let the adults come back to take care of the supposed adults.
Right. But she also clashed immediately with another official, especially Javier Becerra, who she referred to as a quote-unquote bitch ass.
So here's one piece of perspective.
A bitch ass.
Well, she's not wrong.
She's also
WTF. We love Susan Rice now.
Hey, broken clock.
Rewind 3.5 years. Susan Rice was mentioned on the short list of potential VP selections for Biden. She is a rival of Kamala Harris. So anytime you see Susan Rice being drugged through the mud in the mainstream press, you should think maybe Kamala's people are the source.
Dude, that's a
possibility.
Great insight.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
very.
Right on that.
And by the way, this little piece of color that Susan Rice is a central figure in Biden's border policy. Get out of here. Who would care about Susan Rice on the border policy, right? Only Kamala Harris team.
Yeah, who's like, we're not the border czar, but you know who is a central figure?
Right.
That is good stuff. You only get in a variety program.
See, Smug, this is why he hangs out with the liberal journals.
Can you believe it? Look at that. They don't even know.
Intel.
In their midst.
In their midst. Listen to that. That's why he does it, to share it all with you.
And this next part was hilarious, too. It said, during one meeting, when Biden was tearing into Becerra, Rice passed Mayorkas a note that read, quote, don't save him, according to 2 people familiar with the meeting. So this is essentially like Mean Girls is going on while they're trying to figure out how to fix the border mess. Like, you've got all these people whose job it is just close the border, man. Just close the border. That's all you got to do. Like, the president can have executive orders. It's been done before. It's been effective before. How are these guys going to tackle it? They're in meetings calling each other bitch asses and passing notes.
Right.
Like, yo, this dude's a bitch ass. Don't help him out.
Bitch
What?
He's a bitch ass.
This is the adults in the room. We were promised the adults are back in charge. The border's wide open while all the folks who are supposed to be watching it are like, yo, he's a bitch ass. Pass it on. Like,
well, I mean,
are you
this
for
is
real?
Listen, this is what kind of thing that happens when you have Weekend at Bernie's running the show. You know what I mean?
Right. It's right.
It truly is. It genuinely
and
is.
like all these, like this theme I saw a number of times come out. I think some of this staff that's, talking to these reporters that says, like, according to 3 staff members, he gets mad when it gets dark and whatever. So I started looking.
When it gets dark.
Yeah.
When the shows are up, when Jeopardy's concluded.
Yeah.
Why I oughta.
So I was like, is this guy a gremlin that, like, you don't feed him after dark? He freaks out or whatever. But then I Googled, like, these symptoms. And the Mayo Clinic says, this could be some things, effects surrounding dementia. It's called sundowning. The term sundowning refers to a state of confusion occurring in the late afternoon and lasting into the night. Sundowning can cause different behaviors, such as confusion, anxiety, aggression, or ignoring directions. What did Joe Biden do at that press conference? He was confused. He couldn't tell the difference between Mexico or Egypt, right? He had anxiety. You could see he was worried and freaking out. When he wouldn't let journalists finish questions before he tried jumping on them. Aggression. I mean, he flipped out on every journo in that room. Ignoring directions. When the staff is like trying to wave him in like a jet, like just come to the door. follow the light. Follow the light, Joe. Just come to us. He turns right back around. This is sundown.
And the press conference occurred 8 p.m.
There it is. There it is.
Sundown, you better take care.
This is exactly it.
I mean, amazing, right? Just amazing. Anyway, all right. So that's the whole Joe Biden situation. I want to first say a big thank you to the people at Washington and Lee for including us in their mock con. They had a mock convention that's historical, both in terms of its accuracy in predicting who a Republican nomination would ultimately be when they're out of power, but just it has to be seen to be believed in many ways. I mean, this is massive. This is a massive event with really important, incredible folks that come down there. I mean, we met Governor Kemp on his way out.
Governor Youngkin was there.
Governor Youngkin, Kemp in particular. What a just a fantastic.
And President Trump videoed in with a message that was just awesome. Terrific video message.
Yeah.
Billy Ray Cyrus was there.
That's right. Did you manage to have a conversation with?
I didn't talk to him. He was warming up the whole time we were there. He was getting ready to sing "Achy Breaky Heart." I think he practiced it 3 or 4 times.
We heard him tuning up a little bit.
Yeah.
Troy Aikman.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh yeah, Troy Aikman.
Troy
was
Aikman.
there.
We had the opportunity to say a few words with him, get his take on the Super Bowl. It was pretty good. I mean, the whole thing was fantastic.
Excellent. And well executed. Those kids did an amazing job.
Really, really good job. And that's available online.
Yeah, you know what? It was entirely assembled and executed by college students.
Exactly.
And if you were there, you would have never guessed.
No.
You would have thought that these were 20-year pros who put this thing together. And they were all you really got to tip the cap to these guys.
Totally. It was incredible. Outstanding job by those folks.
Yeah. We're going to play a game we've played once here before. Smug was not here the first time we did it, called Hard Pivot. For those of you who didn't hear it the first time, it is a fantastic game. I'll explain the rules as we get into it.
I'm excited.
We're going to talk a little bit about a Senate map because this is a very bad one for Senate Democrats, the worst that I've seen in 2 decades of doing this, and it got a lot worse at the end of last week. We'll illuminate a little bit of that for you. And then we got some animal news and some stuff here at the end before we sign off that you'll all love. But first, to Hard Pivot, because we like to, there's a little variety.
Okay.
There's variety.
Let's get right to it.
Let me just explain a little bit
Okay.
about the way this works. We have always been great admirers in politics about particularly effective politicians being able to deliver whatever message they're supposed to deliver regardless of the question that's answered. And when you see the whole thing on video, it is jarring disconnection. Right? But they say what it is that they intend to say, regardless of what the question is, and it takes a special skill set to do it. And so what we've done is set up a situation where I am going to, as a journalist, ask a question of both Duncan and Ashbrook. Now, prior to me doing that, Smug is going to give them the answer that they're going to provide in the context of how I have asked this question, no matter what.
The pivot of what we have to get to. Basically.
Exactly. So how
he's like the press secretary.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to be telling Ashbrook and Duncan who they're going to be playing and exactly what idea they need to pivot to, no matter what question they are asked.
No matter what. They need to answer the question based on the talking points that the comms director here has delivered.
Okay, so let me just to make sure.
Yeah.
You're the journo. You're asking the question.
I'm also the judge and jury.
Journo, judge, and jury.
Yeah.
Smug is the comms director coming in to tell his boss, sir, you're going to be asked about X. You really need to wedge in Y.
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly right.
And then for bonus points, you don't have to go for this. You want to first nail that for sure. But for bonus points, you can plug something, as all elected officials love to do.
For
website? Example, let me just tell you, you'll be watching a Fox interview, and you'll hear someone do just a terribly disjointed answer, trying to push in their talking points into what was asked, and then at the end they'll be like, "For more information on that, go to my website at .com."
Yeah.
Right, or something like that. So that's the bonus point opportunity that I will be judging here, and you will get that
I'll hand it to you in a secure
Okay,
envelope.
so here's my final question. Are you asking the same question, and are we supposed to
I am
wedge
not.
in the same
Nope.
issue?
You are
Okay.
going to be two different politicians
Okay.
coming from two different perspectives
Okay.
with two different questions, two different pivots, and two different plugs.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay? And I will be the sole judge and jury of this.
And we're not supposed to laugh or anything.
You
Like,
can
we-
do, I mean, like, listen, I think
We're
this is
allowed
going
to
to
have fun
I
here.
think this is going to be tough. I think it's going to be
I
tough.
get a little anxiety. This is really unscripted.
This is the best part about this. I can't wait. I hope we play this with more frequency because
Yeah,
I want
it's
to
a great
participate
game.
at some point.
Okay, so Ashbrook, you are going to be playing the role of a moderate Republican state rep from Virginia.
Okay.
You need to pivot to the importance of allocating more money to upgrade the Wi-Fi on the Acela train between D.C. and New York.
Okay.
And here's your bonus
That's the
opportunity.
bonus.
I'm passing it to him.
And-
as
Where do
secure
I
envelope.
read the bonus?
Well,
Not out loud. You can take a look
I
at
think
it.
you can take a look at it. Just know it's in there for you. And then I will give you the question as the journo in a press conference here.
But remember, you want to pivot to the importance of allocating more money to upgrade the Wi-Fi on the Acela train between D.C. and New York.
It's just an amazing. Okay. Representative, are you ready?
Sure. Go ahead. Thanks for having me.
Tucker Carlson has received a lot of blowback for interviewing Vladimir Putin. Do you think it's ethical for anyone to sit down with a dictator?
I appreciate the question. And what I would say to you is that there's a long history in American journalism of interviewing a variety of people. And, I am, as a moderate Republican, I don't agree with everything that Tucker Carlson says on a daily basis. But I do respect the freedom of the press. And I do not appreciate, of course, what Putin is saying about our country. I think he's a terrible dictator. And I think that he's someone that we need to continue to fight back against. And the people who are fighting back against Putin are people in everyday life. And if you are somebody who is working every single day to push back against that kind of hate, you...
I'm nervous as a communications director
Very, very,
for this moderate Republican state rep.
difficult
I'm
to
worried.
get out.
You need Wi-Fi service. You need Wi-Fi service, and you need it everywhere you can get it, especially on train rides from New York to Virginia. And as people come down from New York to Virginia, they're coming to influence our politics. And what they need is the ability to push back against situations like we're seeing there. And again, I support the freedom of the press, but I also support the freedom of the people to stand up. People will not have freedom if they don't have the ability to speak out using their Wi-Fi. And that is also why I'm encouraging people to read my new book entitled Patriotism: How to Wave the Flag Properly. It's something you can't do without Wi-Fi or freedom.
Thank you very much, Representative.
Okay.
Duncan.
I'm sorry. I blew it. I just couldn't.
It's very funny.
I really thought you'd be a ringer at this, too.
I couldn't
man.
keep a straight face.
It's very hard.
All right.
The pivot was just, it killed
And that was
me.
such an easy one, too. I would have knocked that out of the park. All right. Duncan, you are a squad-aligned Dem House member. Now, you need to pivot to reducing methane emissions from livestock to combat global warming. All right? And then this, in a secure envelope, is your bonus points.
Okay. So you've got the topic, you've got your bonus points.
Reminder, the pivot is to reducing methane emissions from livestock to combat global warming.
Congressman, are you ready for the question?
Yes.
After watching that press conference last week, is Biden simply too old to continue as president?
Thank you for the question. I think it's an important question. Is Biden too old? Is Donald Trump too old? Well, I know that for young Americans who are thinking about the future of our country, and the climate. They're both too old. They're not going to be around for an ever-warming world that they're leaving for the rest of us. You know, it's funny. I actually talked about it recently on my podcast, Pronouns and Land Acknowledgements. And I think if we don't get something through Congress this year to curb methane emissions from cows and our broader agricultural industry, then we're not going to have a world to live in. Again, it's available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can get it. That's Pronouns and Land Acknowledgements. We publish twice a week. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, I don't know how much judging you have to do there.
I want an extra bonus point because I changed the name.
He did. He changed the name
of the podcast because I like Pronouns and Land Acknowledgements. The original was the Progressive Pillow Fort, Safe Spaces and Policy Places. It's good. It's good.
So, listen, I think this one's pretty easy. I think Duncan's going to be the champion on that.
Thank you.
Generally speaking, I would deduct a point for the not going with the specific name, although I appreciate the creativity.
I want a little razzle dazzle.
Wow.
I couldn't keep a straight face. I feel like that sunk me.
I mean, that is a very hard.
He was doing so well. I gotta take a little bit of the blame there because I turned and we made eye contact, and that's when he lost it.
I couldn't. For both of them, it's just fantastic. What a great game.
Great game.
Hard pivot this round. It goes to Michael Duncan. Congratulations.
Outstanding.
Thank you.
Great
Congratulations. All right, so on to real stuff here, the Senate map. There was a very big announcement late in the week, last week, on Friday afternoon, right as Joe Biden was confronting the obvious problems that he had created for himself on Thursday evening, that made things so much worse for Democrats. And what happened was that Larry Hogan, a former very popular governor of Maryland, who had previously eschewed all entreaties from Republicans to try to get him to run for Senate, decided to make a run. And this is something that had been months in the making. He'd been considering it. Is somebody who has never left the public sphere in an awful lot of ways. Like, he's got his own views. They very much are a map out to the Maryland public. Like, just to give you an example, this is a guy who is winning re-election by huge margins at the same time that Trump was losing by 31 and 33 in two respective elections. So the separation there is such that the vast majority of Marylanders see and understand that the attacks that they have on both Donald Trump and the Republican Party writ large just don't simply stick to this guy. Mm-hmm. Some of it is because he has got some different, more, I would say, sort of central to Maryland views on a whole range of issues. But also, he's just like, they know him, and he did a good job as governor. And his approval rating is through the moon. Mm-hmm. Problem that Democrats have is not only that you've got a seat that you never thought that you would have to defend because it's a reliable Democratic seat, but because it comes in a backdrop of a Democratic incumbent in West Virginia that was the only Democrat that could have held the seat. Mm-hmm. There will be a Republican takeover on that, most likely Governor Jim Justice in West Virginia. You've got an Ohio situation with Senator Sherrod Brown, who has been living on rented time in a state that has gone significantly red. Trump carried it by 7 and 8. And now he is facing this in the context of a presidential election with a very serious candidate, either, one of three candidates, I guess, on the Republican side. Some primary needs to be litigated there, but any of the three can win. And then Montana, where national Republicans have recruited Tim Sheehy, who is just like an incredibly smart, attractive young dude who's just getting into politics, with a perfect match for Montana going up against Senator John Tester, who has had the good fortune of running in 3 consecutive Democratic wave elections as a senator.
And he just got endorsed by President Trump.
He did. He was just endorsed by President Trump. But look, Tester won his first election in 2006, maybe the worst election cycle for Republicans in 100 years. Mm-hmm. His second one was with Obama on the top of the ticket in 2012. Mm-hmm. And his third one was maybe the second worst Republican cycle in 100 years in 2018.
Mm-hmm. And in 2018, just to go back to Larry Hogan for a second, he was reelected in 2018 55-43 in Maryland.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's...
so
like we lost a lot of places in 2018.
He won by 12, which Trump lost the next cycle by 33.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he's got a 50-point gap
that
he's covering in Maryland. But if you look at Montana, you can understand why Democrats are really concerned about that.
Yeah.
They also have liabilities all throughout the Midwest and West. And when you're talking about Michigan with an open seat, Wisconsin, I think going to be a lot more competitive than people think. Nevada, obviously always a close race on the presidential year. Mm-hmm. This year is sort of shaping up. Arizona is in that mix as well. And then like the Republican liabilities. Oh, and I forgot Pennsylvania with McCormick.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Which, on paper right now, it looks like that guy can win this regardless of what's on top of the ticket. So like all of those liabilities, they're very expensive for Democrats. What he never factored in was a state as blue as that, as expensive as Maryland, also being on the board. They've got this David Trone cat who they've recruited, who's a self-funder. He owns like Total Wine or something like that. Foldy ran against him.
And again, this is someone who's never run statewide before. Hogan is someone who has won statewide in Maryland as a Republican multiple times. I wanted to read a couple of these numbers. So this is when Hogan left office as governor. He had a 77% approval rating in Maryland. That was an 80% approval rating among Democrats. Okay. Yeah. And 70% among unaffiliated voters. 81% among black voters. How the hell does this happen?
Well,
this is a Republican who cut taxes every year he's governor.
It's a unicorn, is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a unicorn. It's somebody who is the perfect ideological fit for their state. Now, Democrats are going to run a hell of a campaign against him, trying to convince everybody that he's like Donald Trump 2.0 and that all the positions that he's taken as governor have somehow not his overall ideology. And they're going to try to throw millions at him. But I think that's a tough sell. Like Larry Hogan seems to me to be really squared away in that race. And then when you set the backdrop of the rest of the map, I mean, look, the most endangered Republican here is either Ted Cruz or Rick Scott.
Mm-hmm.
You got Texas or Florida, which are both.
I mean,
that's
it.
Yeah,
like
feel pretty
good.
Feel really good about that.
It's a great map for us. I don't know if you mentioned. I don't think you mentioned Michigan. Mike Rogers is running there.
Open.
So that's usually been a tough seat for us. But Rogers comes from a part of the state that is the same part of the state where Stabenow is from, where Alyssa Slotkin, the Democrat, is from. I think that we're competitive. We're competitive in these other states. We're competitive in Michigan. There's a woman named Nella Domenici who is running in New Mexico. She might make New Mexico competitive in a way that it hasn't been in a while. So Republicans are on offense across the map. And to your point about Democrats having to spread out their money, Maryland is not an inexpensive state.
No, it's super expensive.
They will have to spend to protect an incumbent seat that should belong to them under normal circumstances. And that's money they're not spending in Montana, in Ohio, which are states where I think if we get, I think we already win those. It's money they're not spending in Wisconsin, in Michigan. Mm-hmm. Think about Tammy Baldwin, who is the current senator in Wisconsin. There's a lot of controversial things in her background that haven't been fully reported yet, and Republicans have a candidate, likely this guy who's a self-funder who's going to run in that state.
Yeah, Hovde.
So think about Tammy Baldwin going to Schumer and saying, look, you need to spend more in my state. If those conversations are happening, Republicans are winning.
Yeah, listen, we're in a very, very good shot. I don't ever remember a situation as dire for one party or another as it is for Democrats here with this map. But let me also just say something. Steve Daines has done a remarkable job at the senatorial committee.
Yes.
He's done a remarkable job. The party, understandably, amidst a contentious primary, gets very fractious in a presidential election year. He has been able personally to work with all of the factions on a simultaneous bit where everybody knows that he's a straight shooter. He's telling them his real view, not trying to pull one over. They all trust him. And he's been able to go out and make these recruiting decisions that give Republicans the best chance to win in every one of these states. Like, you heard us for a year and a half be really hard on the Rick Scott NRSC. That's the difference, right? You've got somebody who's willing to put their skin in the game, go talk to everybody, not be a yes man for anyone, but go out and try to make tough decisions that ultimately they know they're accountable for in order to try to win. And that's what he's done. Like, this is a very impressive recruiting map. I mean, there's no holes in this. You've got candidates that are really significant in every one of these states. And if I'm a Democrat, I mean, I said on Twitter, I would have loved to have had a GoPro camera in Chuck Schumer's office on Friday afternoon. I bet he was thrown up in the waste paper basket.
Yeah, just because like in all the races that you went through there, they basically have to pitch a perfect game to keep the Senate. And then you get Larry Hogan in Maryland, something you never thought was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it really, like, complicates things.
Really complicates
I
things.
mean, like, a candidate who cracks 70% approval among Republicans, Democrats, independents, and black voters.
That's a unicorn.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist except for one dude who decided he's going to do the right thing, right? I mean, it's incredible. First of all, hats off Larry Hogan. Thanks to him and his team for deciding that his public service is required in trying to get this country back on track, because it makes an awful lot of difference in terms of what this map ultimately looks like. But anyway, along we go. Fellas, we've got a clip here that is this is from the San Francisco Standard, first of all, which is a Waymo. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah,
Waymo?
Waymos.
So I'm unfamiliar with these, but a robo-taxi, right? They don't have the drivers?
You know, you should go back and visit Arizona, because to my knowledge, I think they're one of the only, well, including California, they've got they're self-driving cars, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you can get to the airport. This is wild. I haven't experienced it. I've had buddies who've told me about it. I had a buddy, friend of the program, Bobby Charette, because you can listen to Spotify in the back of these, and he picked Ruthless, and he sent me a photo of listening to Ruthless.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Back of the robot car.
That was in back one of these cars?
That was in the back one of these.
So I love the idea of these things. Evidently, during a Chinatown celebration of the Chinese New Year, it became an unfavored vehicle. Can we watch clip 3, please, Spaghetts? That's the vehicle.
Wait, how did it start on fire?
So what happened was on
you got the
Saturday
Chinese
night,
New Year fireworks going on. Unfortunately, it's the car.
Some people broke the windows.
Shit.
Yeah, and they threw fireworks inside, setting the vehicle ablaze. The incident occurred on Jackson Street near Grant around 9 p.m. Waymo said the autonomous vehicle was not transporting any passengers at the time of the incident.
I mean, I
no
hope
injuries
so.
were reported.
It seems like a real shame. How are they going to get home from the riot? It seems
Again,
sort of self-defeating.
For the folks who are not subscribed on YouTube, that is a wild scene. You see them straight throw it into the car, and it instantly catches fire. It's like up. Like, they must have thrown a ton of fireworks.
A lot of fireworks. It was
that
not
thing.
clear what prompted the crowd to set the robo-taxi on fire.
Here's the thing, I'll tell you. They are clearly American. And I think robo-taxis, electric cars, I think all of the above are the absolute worst thing that has developed in our economy. I think I understand why people want electric vehicles. I understand why people want robo-taxis. I understand capitalism. But I think that the internal combustion engine is the greatest invention of our century. And I think that Human powered transportation is more important than robot powered transportation. And anybody who stands up to the robot revolution, I think we need to support.
Well, so wait, you're in favor of the protesters?
I think every robot car should burn.
So Ashbrook yet again sides with left-wing liberals, coastal elitists, his San Francisco buddies. I can meet you halfway. So I would prefer to have a car that is a gas-powered car. I can tell you, when I was in Iowa, it was negative 20 degrees. The only cars on the road were the ones that ran on gas because every electric car was stuck.
Right.
They can't, when it's that cold, the battery, it'll say, oh, you can drive for 300 miles. You get that thing out of the driveway, it says, you've got 50 meters left you can drive. They just don't work when it's that cold. So I only trust a gas engine.
You should.
Having the robot driver is the best. That would be
I'm not
so
opposed to the
amazing.
robot. I'm not opposed to the robot driver.
You have no control over that. You have no control over a robot driver. Nobody has control over a robot driver.
I have no control after I've had 20 to 30 bourbons, right? Now I have a hard time looking at my phone. God knows where I'm sending myself on Uber. Maybe making a dumb decision trying to go get, a pizza or something across town. I'm going to get lost. I'm going to lose my wallet. Or I've got a robot car waiting for me.
You want a person driving the car who understands your situation.
Well, I'm not sure a person would have changed this outcome. It turns out one man bashed the front passenger window with a skateboard, shattering the glass in which they injected the fireworks and set it ablaze. It seems like maybe problematic regardless of the propulsion.
Here's the other thing. They'll remember.
The robots?
As he's dying, he sends, a little email to his buddies. He said, this is what they did to us. Never forget. Remember my sacrifice, right?
Make sure that guy's opioid trip quits real early on the deathbed.
I mean, these people, these robots, they'll remember this shit.
But here's the thing. You think humanity needs to stand up to the animals? We have to stand up to the robots.
I think
the
we can work with the robots.
The only thing more important than standing up to the animals is standing up to the robots.
We can work with the robots. We've got a million years of history with the animals, and it's never worked out. It's got to be one or the other when it comes down to animals. When you die, a cat will eat you. Even a house cat is not safe, right? They're always going to be your enemies no matter what. We can work with the robots.
Let's work with the robots.
We need a bucket of water on every corner that you can throw on a robot that's out of control. Every corner.
I love that we've opened up a new front. This is so good. Well, I mean, it's a good pivot for animal news because it turns out, according to the New York Post, a traveler tried to sneak 4 mummified monkeys through a Boston airport security who was stopped by a dog. I'm told by Wolf, we don't want to see the photos of this.
I want to see the photos.
No, he said you can't see it. You can't see it. He said we would absolutely scorch the audience if we put this up of what it would look like.
Sure. Can we just say in 5 seconds the photo will air for 5 seconds?
No. I think it's so shocking. We'd probably get taken off the internet.
So this Customs and Border Protection dog wasn't monkeying around. Gotta love of New York Post. A canine with the federal agency and with a nose for the unusual sniffed out 4 mummified monkeys that a person was attempting to get into the United States from Africa after landing at Logan International Airport in Boston last month. The illegally transported deceased and dehydrated monkeys were discovered inside of a suitcase on January 9th during a preliminary screening by a canine buddy named Buddy. A federal department said in a news release on Friday. So Buddy alerted his handler to a specific piece of luggage. The authorities questioned the passenger. He was on a Delta flight coming in from Paris on his way from the Democratic Republic of Congo. He claimed that he only had dry fish, but it turns out he had some monkeys.
Yeah.
He had monkeys in there.
So here's the thing is...
But they refer to it as, by the way, bushmeat.
Well, that's the thing is, so I'm looking at this now. I thought it may have been this dude's Nicolas Cage, just stealing some mummies and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I thought this was some caper.
What was it?
So
bushmeat.
The thing is that the mummified claim isn't these are from King Tut's tomb or something. He wrapped up some monkeys way back in the day. This is they're calling it mummified because it's wrapped up corpses, right? And the intention was to eat them.
So this is like a Congo taco.
Well, yeah. So it's
like the film,
It's deceased and dehydrated. And look, it's important. When you go hiking, you bring trail mix. When you're traveling, if you need a snack, you don't want something that's heavy, right? So you bring a little monkey jerky.
Okay.
They look
Well, there's a well-known
monkey jerky.
constituency for bushmeat.
Oh,
A lot of people like it.
huh.
I'll tell you right now. Look
That's what
at
they say.
Just gonna let that linger.
I couldn't. You can't introduce a new technical term
No, that's a
called
term.
bushmeat and not expect a reaction from that.
That's a term.
You knew this was happening, Wolf.
That's a term. I remember during COVID, it was widely discussed because of the wet markets. You know, where they're like, oh, the Chinese wet markets is where they have. You haven't heard about these? The Chinese wet markets where they're like, you can get pangolins. Like, you know, you go down through the zoo listing and you can find it on the menu at these wet markets in China, and it's like monkeys are considered like bushmeat as part of that. This dude was legit going to. I think we can air the photo, man. We can air the photo.
He's telling us we can't.
The New York Post has it.
He's telling us we can't.
So, if anyone has seen the film Congo about the wild, the large monkeys with the laser guns and such,
Yeah, right.
These look like those kind of monkeys. Like their faces are jacked up, and they look jacked up essentially, like the monkeys from Congo.
I mean, I can understand why a TSA guy would be like, dude, that guy's got human skulls.
Can you open the bone wrap package with 3 skulls hanging out of it? I think we gotta take a look at that one.
Be like, hey, I hate to put you out.
He's like, oh, my lunch bag? Nah, dude. That's fine.
Do you have a waiver for the bushmeat?
Yeah,
sir.
And I like they also included a photo of the dog.
Oh, Jesus.
Wolf won't let us show the photo of the dog either. He said the audience is going to like it.
This
and
hero,
he's not going to allow that.
This hero doesn't even
the one who literally sniffed it out, you know?
Yeah, he sniffed it out. Well, I mean, look, that's a special skill, too, with bushmeat. Okay. We have a second story on animals.
Okay. Well, I don't know how you top that.
Well, I mean, this is for real, though, and it's something you should all be aware on as we approach spring break. Fatal shark attacks have doubled last year. It's according to study finds, as we know that McDaniel's
loves it,
an arbiter of this content. Like he's checking that like the rest of us check our mail.
Yeah.
Study finds that fatal shark attacks have doubled in the last 12 months, according to a concerning new report. The University of Florida's International Shark Attack File reported a rise in the overall number of unprovoked shark attacks worldwide last year. Shark experts say these findings are alarming.
Yeah, people should be alarmed.
They should be alarmed.
It's happening.
The research team suggests
and
that
here's where the hippie bullshit comes in.
Yeah, is not due to an increased aggression amongst white sharks. Instead, it reflects a growing number of people spending time in the ocean and a greater focus on the reporting of shark bites and fatalities.
Bullshit.
I'm sorry. Hold on. It's that we're now reporting somebody died of a shark attack that's the problem?
Right. That's bullshit. The animal kingdom is rising up against humanity. And I have something to say about this, okay? We heard about monkey attacks. We're now hearing about shark attacks. And I think that our audience needs to know something very important. I will tell you, 1 if by land and 2 if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be ready to rise and spring the alarm. We will absolutely fight, and we will defeat the animals together.
Well, here's a wise man once said, I would kill every shark if I could. And that was Donald J. Trump. He was right. You didn't have this number of shark attacks under his watch. For it to double in 1 year, our borders are wide open by land and by sea.
And by sea.
You know, they're coming in. They're murderers.
Well,
they're not sending their best.
52% of the global total of unprovoked shark attacks happen here in these United States.
Because they know all across the world. They know it's open season, open waters, open borders.
It's I guess maybe we're just the most delicious.
Well, we are pretty delicious, no question about it. If you see on spring break, there are many in the water that have a lot to work with.
Yeah,
they think we're soft.
Yeah,
because they read the stories just like everybody else.
It's the high fructose corn syrup.
I'll tell you right now, this is a very easy solution. It's just like I suggested, mortars for the border. You have to show strength. Unleash, America's greatest resource. Our hunters,
let's
our killers.
Torpedo these things.
Take out boats and $5 a fin.
Torpedo.
$5 a fin. The problem solved in a month. $5 a fin.
I mean,
go get them.
Listen, I went on a vacation last year where we were on a beach. My kids are like playing in the water, building sandcastles, as one does. and a dude like, I don't know, 50 feet down was long lining for like, you know, whatever those little fish that you catch off the beach are. Guy reels in like a 12-foot shark.
Wow.
Like a black tip shark. And I'm like, wow, that I did not know. I mean, that changes your water behavior in a hurry, right?
How did he end it?
Did he get it back in the water? Or
He
what?
did.
Why, dude? Why would you do this?
Yeah. Well, it
See,
wasn't
that's
up
one thing
to
I don't
me.
get.
It was his thing.
Whenever I go fishing and they're like, you have to put it back in, I just act like I forgot. Oh, I took a photo. I forgot about that one, guys. Sorry. We got to take them back and eat them.
Anybody interested in some bush meat?
You know what I mean? Like, what's the point, dude? What's the point? He's getting a free piercing? I had to work for that. Do you know how long it takes to catch one of these bastards?
Oh my God.
He's not going back in. He's coming with me. I forgot about him, guys. I forgot about him. I was getting my hook out of him, and, you know, I totally forgot.
Well, I can't believe. I mean, I watched this whole thing. They're struggling to get him ashore. Obviously, it's a huge fish.
God, I would have killed that shark. I'd have killed the
I'm
shit out of it.
surprised they didn't drop like some kind of a clubbing to the head or something.
Could
you
it
know,
fit-
like
you think
as
it fit
one
in a-
does with seals.
Was it like?
But I mean,
It was 12 pounds, right? Would it fit in a cooler?
He said 12 foot. A 12-foot
12
shark.
foot.
That's,
12 foot. I thought you said 12 pounds.
No, 12 feet.
That's within
Okay.
the within
How
the
the hell
legal.
did he reel that damn thing
Oh,
in?
it's further than from me to smash.
Yeah,
How did he
that-
reel that damn thing
That's
in?
with it. Well, I mean,
It took forever. I mean,
yeah.
he was literally. I
It's a lot
only
of work.
noticed it because of the length of time that he was fighting this fish. Like I played with my kids, saw him catching this thing, kept playing with my kids, and then turned around and I was like, Jesus, he still got something.
He just reeled it.
Yeah, just gave
He had
But
like
it's not a
3 dudes
useless
on
answer.
harpoons, like Ahab, to bring.
Well,
this
and then
dude
he
in.
had
12
some
feet
guy
long, and
hold
he
the
just
rod, and he went into the water and snatched this thing. I mean, the guy was a real angler.
see. You do not let that go, dude. How do you don't throw that back?
It's pretty good eating.
The sea has given
It
you
is
that
not
gift. You've
good
earned
eating.
it.
A black tip shark?
No, it is not good eating.
Are you kidding me?
Hell yeah, it
Have
is.
you heard of soup?
Shark fin soup?
Now, I mean,
Yeah.
the listeners
Yep.
should know if there is a connoisseur
Or
of soup
sushi
here on the variety program.
No.
You enjoy that before you go back to
No,
shore.
you don't want to eat
the sweet
shark.
taste of victory.
No.
A blackfin shark is a delicacy.
Bioaccumulation.
While he
mercury,
lives, bro.
mercury.
While he lives.
No.
Oh, the mercury. That's all made up shit, dude. It's in thermometers, not fish.
Have you ever seen how
magnets.
healthy? Have you ever seen how healthy Japanese people look?
Yeah, it's because they
Not a
eat
single
the-
overweight person on that island.
It's
Yeah.
because of the shark.
It's the
because
shark.
they're eating shark fin soup.
That's the truth.
That's where you're going
That's
with?
the truth.
Yeah, but don't those dudes like just like peel off a fin and like throw them back overboard?
Yeah.
See,
There are lots of
and
options.
that's
you don't
why
have
you
to
don't
do
hear
only
about the
that.
tax over there. The message is loud and clear.
That's why they're not.
You know why
that's
your friend
they-
doesn't have a fin? Find somewhere else to swim. Just make it
Speed
clear.
chain it.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Do you know why your friend doesn't have a fin? That's right, because he got a little too close to the beach.
Got too close.
Now he has no fin and he sits at the bottom.
We got kids swimming here.
Warning to the rest. Warning to the rest.
Well, fellas, I think we did. A big reminder to subscribe to the YouTube so you can see all this variety content that we're talking about in addition to having us narrate it. And just thank you for being a part of our community. We've had a lot of really good weeks here, a lot of really good discussion. I think, you know, we're one of the few that gives you different points of view on everything from bushmeat to today's politics, which we appreciate greatly. I think we did it, fellas.
I think so. Absolute banger of an episode. Gentlemen, again, thank you so much to the minions. A reminder, go subscribe to the YouTube. It's twice as fun with video. So, until next time, minions, keep the faith, hold the line, and own the libs. We'll see you on Thursday. Stay ruthless.